How can you increase your price, but your demand still keeps going up? How is that possible? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Erkka Suvanto. Some of you call me EJ. I'm here to build a legacy for my kids and pass on all the business and life learnings to each and every one of you. Today, let's look at price to value discrepancy and compare that to the product categories that we are used to in consumer business. In my intro, I mentioned that it's possible to increase price but see your demand go up at the same time. In which scenario? How? When? Let me explain. But first, let's look at the price to value discrepancy from the value creation perspective. This is a graph I have drawn before, where here at the bottom we have cost, here we have price, and here at the top we have value. What does this mean? Let's change colors here a little bit to illustrate. So the difference between price and cost obviously is called profit. And the value to price discrepancy, or the delta, is called goodwill. If you remember from my previous videos, this is what we shoot for. So people pay 100 for a new t-shirt they buy, but they see the value in their eyes being 150. So the extra $50 or euros is the so-called goodwill. So every brand, every consumer goods company, or every company overall obviously wants to shoot for higher value, high enough value, so that there is enough of a buffer between the price and the value that the consumer sees. That's called the goodwill. Obviously, price and cost difference is called profit. And here we get ourselves a happy customer who recommends our business, our service, our products. Here the reaction is neutral, and here we have ourselves a hater. The problem now becomes when a company increases the price, but the value remains the same. So price alone, a price increase alone in a normal consumer business doesn't necessarily mean that the value goes up at the same time. And when you start increasing the price, but the value remains the same, obviously at some point your price exceeds the value and you start losing customers. Okay, so moving on. How is this then related to our typical product categories? Let's simplify a little bit and use 4. I'm going to use black color here just to make it simple. So product categories. So let's use the traditional categorization of luxury, premium, then we have the so-called mid-tier, and then the low cost. Okay? Starting at the top, and these two are really going to be the bread and butter of today's presentation. So what is typical of luxury? There are actually very few luxury brands out there. So some of the household names that everybody knows: Louis Vuitton, the mother company LVMH, and let's say Rolex, Rolls-Royce being a few of them. So what is typical for this category? It's very typical that when we increase the price, the extra price tag in the eyes of the buyer is value already. So let that sink in. So these people, if you buy that Louis Vuitton handbag for $3,500, the extra price tag, the outrageous price of that handbag, is seen as value. Whereas in the other categories, here, when the price goes up, the value goes up at the same time. If I'm selling premium, this is what I would call above average. This is your, call it BMW of consumer business. Here the problem is that when you increase your price, you always need to pair that with the utility. So the value actually goes down if you don't offer anything else. Here, these companies have built their brand over the years. They are seen as luxury from the customer experience, from the product quality, from all different angles. But here, BMW is just I have nothing against BMW. I have owned several of them in the past, but it's above average. It's called premium. You have to pair a price increase with the utility. So utility with price increase. Make sense? So I can't just raise my 3 Series from 45,000 to 55,000 without adding extra. So these buyers always expect there to be leather seats, extra rims, whatever it is, something extra in addition or together with that price increase. Whereas here, if managed properly, Louis Vuitton, the handbag goes from 3,500 to 3,900. It's just more appealing for the people, because here in a true luxury category, when demand goes up, you increase price, and you probably also limit supply. You cut supply at the same time. So for instance, Rolex, many people don't know that it's a mass producer. It's a mass market. It's a mass producing company, so to say. So they don't limit their supply. But what they do is that they do limit the supply of their best-selling models to their retailers. So if I'm selling Rolex watches in Marbella, in Puerto Banús, I don't have any idea how many Submariners or GMT Master watches or whatever Daytonas I get, some of the best-selling models. So the mother company is limiting supply. I might get one every 3 or 4 months. So in the eyes of the local buyers, the supply is very, very limited. So if I don't buy now, I may never get one. So that, of course, makes the brand overall more appealing, assuming that the quality is there. So Rolex they have done a phenomenal job over the years in building their brand, and it's all based on how good the watch itself is. But it's not a limited supply edition in any way, or the company itself is not limiting its production. But in the eyes of the buyer, it is limited supply, because that most sought after model might hit my retail store every 3 or 4 months. So therefore, if I don't buy now, I may never get it. And what it also does is that it's increasing the value of the used watches in the marketplace. And that's what we see in some of these categories with the most sought after watches or handbags. If you don't get the new one, you actually look at some of these used retailers online, and the price of a used watch is actually maybe double what the new costs, because you don't get the new one. So that's the difficulty there in the eyes of the buyer, because you have to pay more. So true luxury, you increase the price tag, you increase value at the same time, and you can play with supply. Here in premium, above average, call it BMW, you always pair utility with the price increase. And then moving on to mid-tier, as I said, the focus is not really on the bottom here. This is where it gets hard. You are in the tightly squeezed middle, so to say. And many companies, when they start, it's hard you can't start in luxury, because you have to build your brand over time. So you create that offering over a long period of time. It takes time. But mid-tier is where many people start. And as I mentioned in my previous videos, so the mistake number 1 is to look at what everybody else does. Take the average price your offering slightly below, and offer a little more. So the value proposition is more for less. And that's usually not a winning formula. Whereas the winning combination would be to carve a niche, a very small niche for yourself, make yourself a category of one player, so that you can offer something very unique for those people in your market niche. And then you can price your offering accordingly, charge higher prices, get better profit margins, and then become the biggest fish in the smallest pond and gradually get bigger. So that's how you build your reputation, obviously assuming that you know what you're doing. If you have a service business, you have to have the expertise behind it. So here, mid-tier, and then the low cost. Really, the only point I'm making here is that it all boils down to efficiencies across the value chain. So think about the biggest players here, Amazon, Walmart, and so forth. Actually, it might seem like the barrier to enter this market is low, but actually the other way around. You need so much efficiency, so many efficiencies across your whole value chain system that it's really impossible almost to enter this market, because you have to have the system and the expertise, and you build that over the years. But here, to understand this, the difference between luxury and premium and how that is related to our first page about the price and value difference. So when you play with price, you have to make sure that you also offer value in combination, so that you are not stuck with this mushy middle, mid-tier or the premium category, where you have to actually increase the utility at the same time. Because many people price themselves out of business by increasing the price alone. They don't understand that that's a dead end in the long term. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button. Until next time.